What I am, I will explain to you. My conscience is the only thing that helps to pull me through.
Hi, my name is Carl Johann Schroeder, and today is a very difficult day for me, so I need to talk about it. That's just the way I am. I'm going to feel and think and figure things out. And then I like to share the lessons I've learned. Because today is the kind of day that we all need to face sooner or later, the day when a dream dies. Something you've longed and wished for so long, worked hard for, and felt deeply and envisioned with all of your heart. And finally, the reality hits. It's just not going to happen. At least it's not going to happen the way you planned. Because every true dream never really dies. It just calls you to die to the past, to the old ways, and be reborn, to go deeper inside of yourself until you find the dream again, alive and well, and you all the wiser and stronger for the changes you had to make to get there. Today is January 20th, 2025 in the United States of America, a very rare day when two big events happen to coincide in my country. First, it's the third Monday of the new year, the day designated to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr., the civil rights leader who is so very famous for having a dream of fairness and justice for all. In 1963, the year I was born, King said, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." This simple statement was revolutionary because Dr. King had dark skin. And for all of its great founding ideals enshrined in a great constitution, my country has had a horrific problem with racism that just won't go away. But we have seemed really close. Now, over 60 years later, we've had a black man president who did some really great things, including establish a national health care coverage plan. And last fall, a black woman candidate with fantastic qualifications was running to be the next president against a convicted felon, a man who plotted a coup to destroy his own country, a pathological liar with no understanding how government really works, a bigoted narcissist who has fully demonstrated that the only public he serves is his own ego. And he won. Twice, in fact. This man has won the presidential election against women. He lost easily against a man in between, so the takeaway must include that my country would rather let a crime boss destroy the nation than have a woman be president. So now today is also January 20th, Inauguration Day, the day that this man is crowning himself King President, complete with big plans to remake the constitutional democracy to serve himself and his richest friends, with persecution and injustice for all. He has freely boasted that he will be a dictator on day one and promised his supporters that they'll never have to vote again to keep him as their leader, as if making choices was a hardship for them. Well, last summer, my friends and I celebrated the 4th of July as No King's Day. We called it that because our country was founded on freedom from monarchy, with a system of laws to protect all citizens equally. And now, 6 months later, I'm recognizing not one but 2 King's Day, the day of Martin Luther King Jr. and the day of the president who would be king for life. So as much as I like to talk about the most beautiful spiritual future that we all have ahead of us, because indeed, I have been training my whole life with spirit guides to remind us all how good the universe truly is. Right now, I have to explain some ugly stuff. I have to talk about history, politics, religion, corruption, and how the true teachings of Jesus have been misunderstood by everyone, Yeah, Jesus, a 2,000-year-old radical philosopher who knew the way out of the mess we're in today. You see, I used to believe in unity. I don't anymore. I used to think that all the people would unite for world peace and cooperation to save this beautiful planet upon which we all depend for life. Wars, pollution, disease, hunger, and poverty would surely end. That's what everybody wants, right? But no, that's not what everybody wants. It's been the hardest, longest lesson of my life to accept that there are many people who want suffering and death because that's what they base their power upon. Now, to be sure, their power is weak, dumb, and short-lived. They just get to be the last to suffer and die. Everybody else goes first. Not somebody you want for a friend. Not somebody you want for an enemy either. The challenge is to simply not fight and not hate these nihilistic losers, because that's what they want you to do. Hating and fighting them makes you one of them, and then they win. Because there will always be someone nastier than you are willing to go, just to make sure that you die before them. It's a race to the bottom, you see, only there's no bottom. So what is the alternative to hating the haters and killing the killers if acting that way makes them win? Well, what I see now is that there are countless beautiful pockets and worlds of unity and peace in a cosmic order that also allows hate-based communities to exist. This is hard to accept for anyone who feels the least bit spiritual, but allowing evil has to be a choice. It's a foundation of free will. Everyone is respected in creation to experience their own choices. That's the only way that everyone can be in charge of their own reality experience and thus be equal in creator power to the goddess, God, great spirit of love. Yes, there really is a living, loving universe that knows your name and always keeps a home for you. And not every place and person is where your home is from. There are those with whom you simply don't belong. Ever. Forget it. You have nothing to do with them. No arguing, no converting, no rescuing, no worthwhile interaction whatsoever. Just clarify your values in contrast, to remember who you really are and move on. Let go the past that never worked and discover whole new worlds that always welcomed you to be just who you are. It is perhaps the greatest irony that in order for everyone to discover how much they really want to love, they must be allowed to see what choosing hate will do to them. The divine creator source therefore sorts the multiverse into loving places and hateful places, all of which are equally supported to exist, although only love is what the source will do. This, then, is the superhuman challenge of unconditional love, to be able to say, I can support your right to exist as you choose, because your lack of love does not affect me. And that is superhuman, because loveless people on my planet, they do affect me. They are killing my world with hate, wars, and pollution. I can love anyone from the right distance. That's what my higher self tells me to do. And that has to mean that some people can't be in my reality at all. At least not for the long term. Not if I want to feel safe and heal and grow with the people I miss and they miss me. So, for the people who choose love and peace, what is needed is a world of only those who choose love and peace. And this great human necessity cannot be humanly enforced, because any enforcement is repression, which the hate-based communities feed upon. After World War II, the Austrian philosopher Karl Popper was instrumental in declaring that the one thing which tolerant societies cannot tolerate is intolerance. Now, this idea gave the World Court courage to prosecute Nazis for crimes against humanity. And clearly, this application of the rule of law, it had to be done to preserve the example of a fair and just society. But humans policing humans did nothing to end injustice. Fascism has continued to live on in weaker hearts and minds, ready to take the stage again when the time is right. So today, January 20th, is I can hardly say it, Inauguration Day for the United States. And we need to decide, what are we inaugurating now? The U.S. is a fantastically imperfect nation, built upon some of the most enlightened principles of the 18th century, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all. That phrase, by the way, was not the invention of Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, even as he enjoyed owning slaves for his elite Virginia plantation. No, Jefferson took those famous words without credit from his neighbor, Philip Mazzei, an Italian immigrant doctor who insisted on paying his workers and not treating them as slaves. But America has long struggled with treating all human beings equally, from dominated Native Americans to abducted Africans for slavery, to its own marginalized women who had to fight for a separate constitutional amendment just to have the right to vote alongside men 150 years later. So today, on this third Monday of the new year, the very day that was set aside to commemorate Martin Luther King, who in the 60s had his famous dream of uniting for equality, we see instead of freedom for all, a raging narcissist who embraces racism, sexism, and all forms of bigotry for power, and he is crowning himself the new king president. Since Martin Luther King Day was first celebrated in 1986, it has only coincided with one presidential inauguration before, that of Democrat Bill Clinton, whose wife Hillary in 2016 won the popular vote but lost the electoral vote against Trump. Today, this Republican ex-president returns for a second term, having won again against another highly qualified woman candidate, lawyer and Senator Kamala Harris, who was known for prosecuting criminals, even as Trump became a convicted felon for crimes involving his abuse of women in power. Trump has never actually been that popular, and he was easily defeated by a man in 2020. But 250 years after its founding, the United States still could not bring itself to vote a woman president. And so it is that on 2025 Inauguration Day, which coincides with Martin Luther King Day, we are reminded that the dream of universal fairness and equality is dead, because there are separate, unequal cultures that will never coexist. There are those of us who want fair leaders and neighbors, regardless of race, gender, or sexual preference. And then there are those who want the privilege and control of their own tribe. So choose wisely the world to which you would belong and practice how to get there. And how does one reach a better world? Well, it is also no coincidence that today's new old fake president has the support of many fake Christians. I'm sorry, but it's true. Bigoted evangelicals do not do what Jesus would do. However, those of us who wanted world peace must also see that we have not done what Jesus would have done. We have tried to expect and enforce a unity for peace where Jesus said there would be none. Yes, Jesus was one of the history's greatest teachers of peace, and no, he wasn't a Christian, nor did he start a church. What Jesus taught was, don't judge so that you won't be judged. Don't condemn so that you won't be condemned. What you put onto other people will come back at you. This is an ancient wisdom, that the world is a kind of mirror for what we have already selected for inside. So it's one thing to stop criminals from doing crimes. Basic crime stopping is required to respect life itself. But it's another thing entirely to judge the criminals as bad, wrong, different people in our hearts. When we simply aren't compatible with another tribe, we need to completely leave that way of life that they represent. If we stay to argue with them, to fight, to try to change them, then we will have already been them. Jesus said we must understand God's way of loving more, so that we can truly just let go all that which does not love. In one of the least understood passages of the Bible, and the Bible, by the way, is far from infallible, but it does have some real gems of truth, mostly what Jesus said. Jesus said, "You think I have come to unite the world in peace, but no, I have come to divide it." Peacefully, of course, because then Jesus explained that the dividing of creation by God is not a war between enemies, because after all, Jesus said we must forgive our enemies and love our neighbors. No, Jesus said that the division he brings is a family member against a family member, fathers against sons, mothers against daughters. In other words, there are people you were raised to be loyal to who are the ones that you must leave. One day a man came to Jesus and said, "I want to follow you, but please wait. First I have a family funeral to attend." And Jesus said to him, "No, let the dead bury the dead. Come follow me now." Imagine that. You have a chance for a new life. Don't look back, just go. This was always one of my favorite Bible passages, because I grew up with nice, easygoing Presbyterian parents, but I also had some really hard-ass fundamentalist relatives that I didn't like to be around. I also studied Greek mythology, and what Jesus said reminded me of Orpheus, being told to leave the underworld and trust that his beloved wife Eurydice would follow him. Eurydice, which way to pronounce it? He was told, "Don't look back, just go, and you will get a new life. She will follow you." Well, after the November 2024 presidential election, in which the notorious criminal won against a celebrated social justice lawyer, felon versus prosecutor, many people characterized it. Well, in my family, my favorite childhood aunt died. I have wonderful memories of Aunt Sue. I listened to her records as a boy of Godspell, Jesus Christ Superstar, and Gordon Lightfoot. But I couldn't go to the funeral because there was no being with that side of the family. They had all voted for the dictator. In fact, they worshipped him. They believed every lie he said, and they thought his racism, sexism, and threats were just jokes from a great strong man who would save them from the evil lying Democrats like me. So for me, something was so wrong in their belief system that I could not feel safe around them. I had to let the dead bury the dead. And I know that I was not alone. After the election, many people had to cut family ties to those who defend the indefensible. You see, Jesus never said that everyone could or should follow him, or that anyone should follow anybody. What Jesus said was, no one gets to God except through him. And he wasn't talking about which church to join or which leader to obey. He was simply saying that there is a way of eternal life, and I am giving you the living example for how to get there. Forgive, love, be like little children, and the meek will inherit the earth. Now, children and meek people are not warriors for unity. They don't judge others or confront the world to make it behave. The meek and children are vulnerable, gentle, and sincere because they just want to enjoy the gift of their own life. So why am I talking about Jesus so much? Because that's my cultural heritage, and also because it pains me that Jesus' message has been so distorted and abused by the enemies of divine love. Shakespeare said the devil can quote scripture for his own purposes. Many people have been traumatized by anti-Christian Christian churches, such that I have atheist friends who seriously think that Jesus is a myth who was invented as an authority figure to control people. And that pains me to hear because nothing could be further from the truth. Jesus said the most radical anti-establishment philosophy that we can still learn from today. Jesus was not setting himself up for power. He always attributed all of his miracles to a nurturing God who loves and supports every living thing. What's more, Jesus said, "You will do greater things than I." Well, here I am, 2,000 years later, and I can push buttons to command technologies that people back then only dreamed. I've got indoor plumbing, sliced bread, and a computer with access to unlimited cat videos and human porn to enjoy. And still, I can get scared and defensive when I think of how much I need a peaceful world in which to live and grow. I feel the impulse to judge and condemn and manipulate for a unity that Jesus knew better than to expect anyone to be good or bad for. Jesus came to teach the way of unconditional love, which is not weak, but infinitely strong, because it is backed by the test of eternity itself. Only love is real. Only love is sustainable. Many people, including the fake Christians, have concluded that Jesus must not be the true Savior because, after all, he was killed. And a true Savior would save us from our enemies, smite them, something. They don't understand that Jesus didn't die. Jesus lives forever, while those who killed him died. Jesus, the man, didn't want to be arrested and murdered, but he followed the instructions of a higher power to set the most vulnerable, poignant, true example. You can kill your connection to God if you so choose, and it is you who will suffer without God. God forgives. God welcomes home the prodigal child, and God will keep paradise open for so long after you let go of your favorite hate and lies. So, Jesus is not a myth. Jesus was and remains real, just like Buddha and all the other teachers of unconditional love. And for those who study mythology, sure, stories of resurrecting gods are a common ancient archetype. But those archetypes don't mean they can't literally happen. In fact, it means they can happen. Jesus was real, and he literally rose from the dead, and he ascended to a more loving level of reality, where you can visit with Jesus anytime you are willing, just as I and many others have. The only peaceful solution to the problem of incompatible societies is to choose fully within yourself which side are you on. The rule of energy is that we get what we put out, because there's nowhere else for our choices to go. Each consciousness is a copy of the entire universe in the multiverse of God. Whatever rules you live by are the rules you must live upon. If you live by the sword, then you will die by the sword. If you live for love, then love will forever give you life. I have lived my life as I was taught to invalidate and judge as wrong what I did not like. But I am tolerant of tolerance, so I'm curious, I'm playful, creative, and I enjoy a lot. I love a variety of peaceful lifestyles. I celebrate diversity and harmony. I love to meet creative, loving individuals with all manner of skin colors, genders, and cultural, spiritual traditions. The planet is our playground, so let's thrive together with all the amazing plants and animals that nature gives us to show how diverse we can be in a great planetary harmony. And I was taught to be intolerant of intolerance. I judged as sick and wrong anyone who wished to kill and destroy the natural diversity of our beautiful planet Earth. I have put fear and hate on those who would put forth fear and hate. And my reward has been this: I cannot do my own creative, joyful projects without facing critical voices in my head every day. When I want to sing from my soul to add to the harmony of life, I am shouted down by hateful, false, negative beliefs that say, I'm stupid, I'm a loser, nobody wants me, I don't belong anywhere, I should just give up and die. I have struggled with extremes of loneliness, depression, anxiety, and despair, just to accomplish a fraction of the inspiration that my soul calls me to create and share every day. I struggle to be my own brilliant, joyful self, who delights to encourage my fellow beings to be their own brilliant, joyful selves as well. We are divine co-creators in this shared reality, mirrors of the light and love of God, Goddess, Great Spirit, and more, all here now to make heaven on the earth. So really, what is the solution for a world of peace and love in a universe that must also contain violence and hate? Well, we must learn the superhuman skill of unconditional love to let the worlds peacefully divide. We must be divinely guided to protect social justice and planetary health by our internally inspired external actions and not be driven by external fearful reactions. We must step by step and day by day create from our joy for life, even as we are compassionate to see and stop without prejudice the haters when the opportunities to stop them arise. Let the source of all light, all love, be our strength, to live honestly and effectively, to be living examples for what benefits the way of love will freely give. Each day, forgive your uncreative enemies and focus on what your truest friends need you to give from your own place in the great creation. Feel the calling of your soul to be uniquely joyful in what you came here to do. Feel the spiritual support to take those actions, big or small, that show more of who you really are. Let the quality of your work be true so that true quantity can follow. Share publicly your journey as the true safe callings will arise. Let your light so shine out into the world. Follow the synchronistic opportunities to love and be loved so that like-minded people get the chance to see what you did to shift into a better, higher vibrational parallel earth. Truly, Jesus taught the multiverse. Jesus wasn't teaching unconditional love to unite the world in peace. Jesus was sharing with those who shared his own love for humanity the only way to live and let live, so that you can unite with God in the miraculous peace that inherits the heavenly earth. You might as well be like little children, because for all the miracles that Jesus did, still greater are waiting for you. Everyone is deciding for themselves what they want to do in the full range of possibilities that God protects as our sacred free will. Some beings are choosing to love more, and some beings are choosing to love less, and that will be okay. They will be kept in separate places, and in the end, there is only loving all or loving none. You are here to discover the love that you really are, while causing harm to none. You don't have to please or obey anyone to succeed, because your friends are those who automatically like the best that you can do. Because you are another form of what they are working on too. The method that Jesus taught to inherit the earth has no military applications. While the warriors fight to change each other and win territory, we can only fight to change ourselves and win eternity. There's simply no struggle involved to take what is already yours to receive. Suffering must end forever, because you are the child of God, growing up in a universe that keeps the best place for you to thrive. So let yourself serve the community of which you are a part. Be the answer to each other's prayers. The time has come for me to stop caring about what other people think who don't share my values anyway. No more reacting to and opposing what opposes me. I can only live more of the me that I was born to be, thus attracting those I'm looking for who are seeking me. If you want a peaceful, thriving, healthy world of diversity in harmony, then so do I. Welcome. In the words of Ram Dass, whose book Be Here Now I read just before the spiritual awakening after college that changed my whole life, let's walk each other home now. Thank you.